Most MSPs are talking about AI, but most haven't got the basics right. What we're talking about here is, number one, we're screaming after AI like it's the new shiny toy, but we haven't actually decided what's the things we're going to fix. Why are we going after AI to fix things in our business? So the vendors will want you to drink that Kool-Aid, buy those tools with AI in, but have we actually defined what we're trying to start with? Where are we trying to create resolutions for our business, create more profitability for our business, make our teams more performance related? So we need to think about, why are we going into AI? It's like any other product. We take it through an R&D process. We're trying to fix this with this outcome for this cost. You also need to be very careful about systems and vendors talking about AI. A lot of what we're seeing in the market today is actually automation or small AI trying to fix a rhythm. So they're trying to keep it very contained inside that AI. Problem with AI to date is we ask it a question, it gives us 10 different answers. So they've made LMMs and the input very structured to make sure we get the right output every time. The other thing is with LMMs, if we're actually trying to look at our own data, that data is shocking. So they've actually really tried to control it. But in most cases, what I'm seeing is just like the cloud boom, they've just rebranded the workflow and the automation that was in the system to date and called it AI. So that's one of the basics we need to really nail down. In the current systems, are you using all the ability of workflows and automation to improve your business? Typically, we're seeing 5 to 10% utilization of automation and workflows inside a PSA. We want to really maximize that to drive that efficiency that's there today and make sure we're not changing to a product that's talking about AI when really they're talking about something we already have to date. The next thing we want to really focus on is processes that output data. Really good example here is our service desk, help desk. Typically seeing a lot of data that says fixed, closed resolution, we've rebooted it and it's fixed. There's no detail though about actually what did we do to resolve this type of category and this type of fault. Once we turn AI on, that resolution of it's fixed is not going to help AI at all. So we don't know where AI is in that transition path because there's a lot of speculation to date. What we do know is it's definitely going to use that data, and that data is your crown jewels, just like it's always been. But we need to really fix down on processes and resolution codes and sales opportunity data, executive summaries, etc., that are going to be really focuses when AI is ready. So my big push to date is getting that data correct, getting automation maximized in the system, and make sure that when you're talking about AI and you're looking at AI as a new tool, make sure we've got a full R&D process. The danger of jumping in this too early is the fact that we don't know what we're trying to fix, what data looks like in our business, and the structure that we're trying to come out with. Where we're trying to go, where we're trying to take the business. Another big example that a lot of people are talking about today is people. Most MSPs profess, if not do, all about people. People want people. People are talking about tier 1 service desk is going to disappear very quickly. If we're not on this AI journey, your MSP will be dead.
And do you think it's possible today?
I think it is possible today. I think it's hard. I don't think an MSP is behind today if they're not automating the level 1 role. I think an MSP that's doing that is super far ahead right now, but also things are moving quickly.
We don't think that's true. AI is way off that path. But not only is AI way off that path, I also believe your customers are way off that journey. Your customers are already complaining about an AI chatbot on your website, a chatbot to log a ticket, a voice chatbot to ring up and speak to for tier 1. They want to speak to people. They're not ready for that AI journey and that automation journey. You're seeing a lot of people push that, especially vendors, but a lot of people are doing it in the big corporate world, the big BTs of the world. As a customer, we have very little say in what they do, and they will create that automation and that efficiency in their business. But you as an MSP are well aware you've probably got 20, 40 competitors in your local area that you just can't play that game. You can't force that onto your audience, your customers. So I'm seeing a lot of MSPs actually pivot this. It's a little bit like people saying we're no longer going on site. I'm seeing some MSPs pivot into that and say, actually, we will come on site. We will show you examples of not coming on site and how that affects your business and your people and your performance. And this is why we do it. It's exactly the same with the AI. I'm seeing people saying, like Nationwide have done just recently, Nationwide say, we're going to keep all our stores open. We're going to make sure you can contact people locally in your city. It's exactly the same. People are saying, when you ring us, you will always get a person. And what those types of businesses are doing is looking at AI, data and structure, and how they're going to make that person more efficient. How are they going to make sure that that individual, when they receive that tier one call, they will know everything about the customer, even though they don't. They'll know everything about the customer. They'll know a history of data. They'll know a history of resolutions that have occurred before. They'll know top priorities for that customer. They will be fed this information from AI and made sure that the customer receives excellent customer service at very low value and low cost, because the tier one person will not have those skills. But the customer will see the human touch, the personal touch, the person who's friendly, and the person who comes across that knows everything about their business and everything that's happened in the last X days. That can be very powerful. And I think that's the first step of AI in an MSP, is all around how do we make an individual more efficient, more guaranteed, exact data that can't go wrong. We've all got that problem in our tier one solutions where customer rings up and says, I've got this fault, my machine's down again. They try and resolve it. They are not aware that that has happened 3, 4, 5 times in the last X period. The customer's getting frustrated. We've tried 5 or 6 different resolutions. That engineer is not aware of that frustration. They're going to try the same things. They're probably not going to resolve it. They're not going to escalate it at the right time. And you've got an upset customer. So AI and automation and workflows is going to resolve that for us. It's going to put all that information in front of that technician to allow them to talk confidently and resolve it or escalate it very quickly. We talked a little bit about making your people more efficient. Let's zoom in on your most favorite topic, the service desk. So let's look today in a PSA, in a service desk, what is actually possible from an AI point of view. Let's break this down. First of all, I want to talk about ticket handling. So ticket handling and workflows that your tech will see today. So great example of this is someone's ticket that's got 20 activities on it. It's got a long error at the beginning. New tech picks this up. It's an escalation ticket. A great use of AI is to summarize. Can AI say, summarize me this ticket, core pain points, what have we done? What is the next action we've agreed to? That's a great efficiency, using that data in the ticket to bring it out to the end technician to make sure they're not going to do the same thing again, and they're going to progress that ticket to a closure as quick as possible. Then we're going to talk about his response. If you're anything like me and anyone that knows me, my spelling and my grammar is atrocious. Let's not make that a point for the end user. A lot of end users will make decisions on whether you provide good IT because they had bad grammar in the output, or they're talking too technical to the end user and the end user has not got a clue what they're talking about. So that response email, you can make the system say, give me this in note form and I will translate that into a full, well-written, well-grammar, great response, non-technical, back out to the end user very quickly, very efficiently, and with your tone, how you want to speak, how technical you want to speak can be built all into that LLM model. So then actually every technician, every customer receives the same journey and structure from that technician. Prior to this, new ticket. So a really good area is triage, especially if you're one of the smaller MSPs. Typically, they're not doing triage correctly. They've not got a dispatcher. They don't want that overhead cost. And they don't understand the value of having a dispatcher. It is massive, massive value, setting the ticket up for success, watching what goes on afterwards and coordinating your team. We've now got AI into triage. What's this going to do? It's going to summarize the top line. It's going to prioritize the ticket. It's going to categorize it. And the right resource, matching the skill, and the last success. So what I mean by that is, it's going to look at, we've had this ticket 50 times, Bill always fixes it, Bill's going to get the ticket. I know you're going to say, well, that doesn't really help the other team, but when we're looking at efficiencies, we want to make sure this team gets the right ticket at the right time and moves it on. A great example of that would be dispatching it to your tier ones when it's well over the heads of tier ones and we want it to go in the tier two group. So it might not be an individual, it might be a group that we set that up to. I want to just bring RMM in a little bit because I see RMM as something that people see is a dying thing, but actually, again, people are not using it correctly, but it's got some great enhancements coming. So when we look at RMM, difficult part is setting up the system, setting up monitors, setting up scripts. AI is getting built in here to really leverage that and do best practices on monitoring and scripting. It's also going to allow you to use this big data. So when we're looking at this, we're bringing data into the PSA, we've got from the RMM, we've got data that we've created. Now we can start to ask that data repository, can you tell me why this machine is running slow against the other 19 machines that this customer has? What is different? Applications, size, age, performance, etc. And it's going to summarize that for you. That efficiency is massive when you think about the mean time to resolution. We want to make sure the techs get all the right information out of the system without going digging for it. Then let's look at another area. I think biggest area that is impacted today is marketing. Marketing is a big area with an MSP. It comes up every time I do any communities, any peer groups. How do we do marketing and sales efficiently? How do we rev up this engine? I don't have the right resources, I don't have the right abilities, or the time, or the money to put into this. Marketing is a great area because, again, we can put a lot of stuff into note form and then ask it questions, then get a full blog output. With a caveat, I would say that blog is probably 70% after you've gone backwards and forwards asking it questions. Then we need to make sure that we rewrite a good chunk of that blog, has that being the base, because we don't want anyone running AI tools to then find out it's AI and degrade that blog. But it's going to give you a very solid base for you to tweak on top of and get that efficiency when you don't have that resource in-house to date. So that's a great example of using AI inside your business that isn't just service related. Typically when I speak to owners, we're only talking about service. We need to be looking at marketing, sales proposals, again, thinking about grammar. The amount of times I've had people saying, I didn't buy that, Darren, because you didn't put the right spelling in that word, so then I don't believe you're going to deliver the right service. We need to make sure that doesn't happen. Using AI to make your executive summaries, your proposals better, is nothing wrong with that. Use the tools around you to enhance what you're doing. So there's some great examples of today where we can take the AI inside the systems and what's possible to enhance your people, create efficiencies, good customer journeys, and quicker output. So we touched a little bit on AI automation. Where is it today in the systems? Let's be clear about this. Automation is a workflow, a run book, etc., depending on which systems you're in. But actually we're talking here about we're taking a data point that changes, we're running an action, and we want an output. So a great example would be, we've got a status that's changed on this date. That date has now passed this date. And so now we want an automation, and the automation is going to change the status. It's going to send an email. It's going to flag something different. That's a very fixed input and output that we can do in the system, in most systems today. All those types of fixed inputs and outputs, looking at a data point that's changing against another data point of a time, creating an output. AI today is going to do different to that. AI is going to learn from what it's seeing in the data. It's going to suggest from the large language models, the LLMs, what it thinks you should do differently. So a great example today of that is currently when someone logs a ticket, you probably send them an email saying, here's a ticket reference, thank you for logging this. Could you potentially send me some screenshots? But that email is the same fixed email that is triggered from a workflow. So new ticket in, the date equals within the last 30 seconds. We're going to send an email, and the email is a fixed email. AI playing into that today is that fixed email can now actually have an AI algorithm built into it. So we're actually now looking at, what did your email contain? So your email contained the fact that your machine is blue screening, it's trying to install a patch, it reboots, it works for 30 minutes, and then it does it again. AI can read that and then say, your new ticket is this reference. We see that you've got a machine that is blue screening from a patch problem. Could you send us a screenshot of the patch, the blue screen, and we believe it's roughly occurring every 30 minutes. Can you confirm that that is the case? That's a great example of AI feeding into a workflow and structuring the data better so the customer now believes that a technician has actually written that email. Even though we're still efficient, we're still sending it automatically, we're still keeping our costs down, the customer is getting a better journey, better touch point, and we will also get better data because now they will reply something that is legitimately against the error that they recorded. So that's a great example of automation, fixed input, fixed output, versus what we can do today by having a very circularized model of structured data, but we're asking AI a question to get a very fixed output in a certain tone, certain behavior, fluffy, not fluffy, looking at data that we've used before in our technical database to ask very good questions. And we can be very structured about that. But that today is a great example of where I think we can have a workflow triggering AI to equal a very good customer journey. We talked a little bit about using automation workflows inside the PSAs. I want to dig into that a little bit to give you a little bit of context. So common pitfalls going into designing a PSA workflow. Typically, what we see is no structure. So what we want is structure. And what I mean by structure is very much, let's talk about the service desk. So we're looking at boards. So in the boards, what we want is status structure. So if we've got 10 times boards, we actually want all the statuses to look the same, all the categories to look the same if this is a, let's say, incident structure. So we want status, we want categories, we want the journey to look the same. We want the service that's delivered on top of this, wherever possible, to have some common related structure to it. So we want the services to relate into that. So what I mean by that is, recently worked with a customer, they were delivering high-end IT services as a co-managed service. They were being very much manipulated by their customer, and one service actually had 3 completely different journeys, different SLAs, different kicking in on times when they were serviced, not serviced, depending on whether it was a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. All of that creates large complexity that isn't repeatable. So we want it, wherever possible, repeatable. Now we've got a structure here, we can create exactly the same structure across, for instance, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And we can have automation that then triggers around statuses. Great example here would be compliance. So what we're saying is, when we've got a schedule ticket, do we have a forward schedule of an engineer? As that time passed, all those types of triggers in that I talked about, does it create a condition? And we want an output. So we can now create very well structured boards and workflows and journeys and customer journey and automation to match that. That now means that everybody in the business knows if they change a status to X, they equal Y from an automation. And that is true no matter where they are across the incident boards, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. You're not teaching people, well, for this customer it's this, and for that customer it's this, and we've got 60 statuses, but I only want you to use 20 of them. We've very much defined exactly what we're going to use, what we're going to present, and what we're going to automate to create an output. Another really good topic is email. So many automations, the output I see is an email trigger. Email triggers, in my opinion, should only be used if that email is going to go to the system. So if for whatever reason we wanted to create a trigger that would say from service, we're going to input into sales, but we don't want to just create something on a board. We want to actually send something that's not available by doing that board action, that ticket creation action. What we're going to do is say, we're going to output this to an email. Here's the variables I want in that. And then I'm going to send that to the sales catch-all that's got that catch-all inside the PSA that then going to create a ticket with that information on. What I see as a common pitfall is that this goes to an engineer. And we all think that's amazing because now the engineer is going to get alerted to the fact that the customer's responded. They're going to get alerted to the fact that something's going into compliance. What that actually means is this engineer is going to get hundreds and hundreds of emails, and all they do is they create an email rule to get rid of that email. And they just push that noise to one side. And what you've actually tried to do is create a behavior of the engineer responding, and they're actually saying, I'm overwhelmed with emails, that is just going to go somewhere else. So our best advice is not to do this and keep it in the system. So that might be, for instance, a status change. So we may change the status to an action required. Action required status for us is a non-compliant status. So you then teach your engineers and your dispatcher, your coordinator, X times a day, typically we would say 3 times a day, first thing, after lunch, and before you go home, we want your pot of action requireds moved on. They are tickets that are stale, they're in bad compliance. We want you to forward schedule them. We want you to reply to the customer, whatever the next step is before you leave. So a good practice would be 10 minutes before the end of your shift, I want you to come off business as usual and manage your action requireds and drive that forward. That now means I've got the data in the system. I'm not sending something external that's an email to an engineer. We can track it all. We can create dashboards and reporting and KPIs all around that. And we're not just firing noise to individuals. So there's 2 good examples of automation that we can then leverage on top the AI, because that's where that's going to go next. But we're actually making good use of the PSA today in its capabilities of what it can take forward. So ultimately, what we're saying today is automation is the foundation and AI is the layer on top. We talked about my perspectives of enhancing your team on the service desk with AI, with an automation layer. I was speaking to Bobby from Fred on our podcast, where he gives his perspectives on where he thinks AI is going to enhance your service desk and your people, especially on all things AI. I'll link it below. If you fix the basics, automation, data, and AI will become useful. If you don't, it will create chaos in your business. If you don't want to make all the common mistakes that MSPs are making today, read more by downloading Before You Buy AI, What MSPs Get Wrong.